our goal is today is to give you some additional information on how to do some lookups in the web just using the standard lookup feature. There's some additional ways you can configure it that allow users to have a more aggressive lookup into the system. Basically, we're going to be using the standard lookups where you right-click on any of these left-hand navigations, or where you're doing a lookup within the entity in the top blue bar. You'll see that lookup up there. So it's that standard lookup. We're actually going to make some adjustments to that lookup to allow you to utilize more functionality. Now, one of the things that we did cover in our last webinar was how to adjust that lookup, how to use it and how to adjust it a little bit. Basically, that lookup is something that each user can control. And that control means that depending on which entity you're on, like right now I'm on the accounts, and you can see here that I'm on the accounts because up in my blue bar it says accounts. And so if I want to do a lookup here, I can click my lookup button. But I can set my lookup to be any group I want it to be. And basically all you're doing when you set a different lookup is you're telling it, I want to use these columns that are in this group to be my lookup fields. So out of the box, when you first get a new system, it's going to be using this all accounts group. And the all accounts group has some has all the standard fields in it, basically account, some address fields, that type of thing. But you can adjust that lookup. So when I'm doing a lookup on these fields, my drop-down is going to show these, and order does matter. So my first column means my first field, or the default field, is going to be the account name. My second field in my drop-down is going to be customer ID, as you see here. The next one down is going to be city. So depending on the order of the columns that you put in the group that you're using, that's what determines the order on that vertical drop-down. So what I'm talking about is when I do my lookup and I click my drop-down, it's these here. Now you're going to notice my lookup list is different than this all accounts group because I've changed my lookup group. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. But you'll notice that I have account, main phone, customer ID, type, and subtype are my first 5 items. Now if I close out of this, you'll notice I have a group up here that I've called default lookup group. So when I am looking up an account, this is actually the list of fields that my lookup is using. So you'll see account, main phone, customer ID, type, and subtype. So that's how I'm driving my lookup. And I can tell the system that I want to use a different group by going up into the tools and options. So the tools is up in the black bar. If I click tools, then you'll see options down here in the menu. So if I click options and I go to the group tab here, so you'll notice in this gray bar up here at the top, there's several tabs. I want to go to the group tab, and you're going to notice this default lookup layout down here. This is what is telling my system, this is the list of columns I want to use when I do a lookup. So if I can do this drop down, right now I'm on the account level, and if I do this drop down, you'll see when I'm on the account at the top, it shows me all the account groups down here. Now if I change this main view up here where it says account and I change it to say contact, now I'm actually looking at the contact settings, and I'm going to be looking in the default groups, all the contact groups. Now where this becomes really strong is that I can cross entity lookup. So what that means is if I go back to my account group, so I'm just going to go click back into accounts, I'm going to show you my default lookup group. So right now my default lookup group has account-based fields, right? So account, main phone, customer ID, type, subtype, so on. But if I scroll to the right, you're going to notice that I have some contact fields in here also. What this means is my account lookup will also look up contacts. Now I can add multiple layers into this lookup. So I don't have to go into my contacts to do a lookup. I can actually do a lookup right here on the account. And when I do my drop down, you're going to see at the bottom, contact, first name, last name, and email. So I can actually do an email lookup here. on the contact level, and it's going to give me my contacts that have Simplesoft in the email address. So I'm on the accounts, but I did a contact lookup. And by setting my group to be linked to that entity, I can actually go to the contact level right here from my account level. So not only can I look up contacts, I can look up opportunities, I can look up sales orders, quotes, tickets. Anything that's associated as a child record on that account, I can do a lookup on it. Now, if I'm doing a lookup from the opportunity level and I'm customizing that lookup, I cannot go backwards, because you always want to start at the highest level. And I actually have a screenshot of something I wanted to show you here. So what that means is I may want to do a lookup for an opportunity, but if I start at the opportunity level, I'm only going to get the accounts that have an opportunity. So if I'm actually doing a lookup for an account that doesn't have an opportunity, but I'm using an opportunity lookup, it's not going to give me that information, because if that account doesn't have an opportunity, it's not going to show up in my opportunity group. So that's where you have to stop and think, what am I looking for? If I'm looking for an account, start at the account level, because the account level is the master of all. You have to have an account record for every child record in the system. So if I have a contact in the system, it has to have an account. If I have an opportunity in the system, it has to have an account. So if you started at the account level, that's where you're going to do the majority of your business, because everything is a child record to the account. Because you're going to see, looking at this, I can have all these child records here under my account group: contact, opportunity, quote, sales order, ticket. Under my contact, I only have 2 items here, opportunity and ticket, and the opportunity only applies if that contact is added to the opportunity at that contact tab level on the opportunity. And I know there's going to be questions, so I'll be glad to answer those when we get through all this. Now, if I start my lookup at the opportunity level, the only child records I can grab at that point are quote and sales order. So that means that I'm only going to pull information that's associated with that opportunity or an opportunity. But the account level is where you're going to get the biggest impact. So if I'm doing a lookup on the account level, and I go to my default group, I can actually change that default group. So if I go in and I edit that group, and I go to the layout, one of the quickest ways to find out what can you add is to look at your tables here on the left side. So if you do any kind of group creation, you know your tables are on the left, and if I select the table, my fields show up on the right-hand side. So what I did to make my contact connection down here at the end of my layout is I added from this contact table, I added first name, last name, and email. And that allows me to add those to my lookup. You'll notice if I scroll down on my top into my tables, you're going to notice I also have, where's it at here? Opportunity, here's opportunities. So I can do my opportunity lookups, I can add quotes, I can add sales orders. So I can add multiple layers to this lookup. So for this sake, I'm going to show you how to add an opportunity level layer to my account lookup. So if I select the opportunity table, majority of lookups or searches for an opportunity is going to be on the opportunity description field. So I want to add that to my lookup. So I select my table on the left, my opportunity fields show up on the right, then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to go to description. And here it is up here at the top. I'm going to double click, and it adds it to the end of my layout. And I can change the order of my layout too. But here's my description field that I just added. Now, when you do a multi-layer lookup, you want to make sure you identify what that field is actually pulling, because it just says description. So if somebody's coming in and using the lookup, description for what? I don't know, because I didn't actually call out what is the description for. So you're going to want to edit that header on that column so everybody knows what that is. So with that column selected, I'll go down here to the bottom left, and you'll see the edit button. I'm going to click that edit button, and up here at the top second field, you're going to see a caption. I'm going to add opportunity description, or op description in this case, and say OK. What I've done is I've just changed the header on that column so that everybody knows exactly what it's for. Another thing that I like to do is make those advanced lookups what they call a hyperlink, meaning that if you look at the group behind the scenes here, it's got a link to that record. And so that's called an entity linked field. So if I go back in and edit my opportunity description here, you're going to notice down here at the very bottom, entity linked. Down here at the very bottom, I can't highlight it, but there's a checkbox. If I mark that checkbox, it turns that field into a link to that record. So you can use one lookup to navigate to multiple entities. So I'm going to say OK, and that means that when I hit OK on my group and save my changes, when it comes back up, I'm now going to have the opportunity over here on the right-hand side. So now I can click and actually navigate to that opportunity. But what it also does, if I do a lookup in my left navigation, and now if I do my drop down, you're going to notice that opportunity description comes up, and I'm just going to say contains test. And if I scroll all the way to the right, here's all the opportunities that have test in the word for the opportunity description. So now I can actually navigate right to that opportunity right from my account level without having to go into the account and then going into the opportunity tab and then clicking on the link. I did it all in one screen with one lookup. I can now look at all those layers underneath that account. Now, where it becomes important to understand is, and the reason why I created a specific group for this lookup is because it creates duplicates, because I'm looking at a one-to-many. So I have one account, many contacts, one account, many opportunities, one account, many quotes. So as deep as I make this lookup is how many records I'm going to have on here. So it's important to know that and to understand that this group is only going to be used for lookups. It's not one, you don't want to change your all accounts group with all these layers, because then it's going to look like you have 50,000 accounts when only you have 10,000. So hopefully everybody understands that. So it's just important to understand that's why we create a separate lookup group. Now, once I've created that group, you know, as an administrator, I can actually create that group and then share it out to everybody and tell everybody, go to your tools and options and make this change on here, and then you're going to have this enhanced lookup. So that allows you to create one group and then allows everybody to utilize that group once they change it. Now, that's important to remember, is that it is a user-specific configuration, meaning each user has to go in and say, I want to use this group for my lookup. There is no global way of doing it as an admin because the web client is held, it holds the configuration differently in the web client. So with that in mind, I want to go through and show you that I've done accounts, and I don't remember if I did contacts. I might have done contacts. But if I go to the contacts level, you're going to see a default lookup group here. So I've actually already set this one up, and I attached quotes and tickets to the contact level. I can do the same thing on the account level. I can add to that default lookup. I can add my quotes and tickets. I can add sales orders. I can add multiple layers to any of these lookups that matter. I just wanted you to be aware that you can do it. I do like putting it under the one account level, so you go one place to do a search for everything. Where this becomes a separation of is between leads and accounts and contacts. So accounts and contacts and opportunities, sales orders, quotes are all considered purchasing customers. They're actual live customers, where the leads are considered cold, right? So you've never done business with them, and you don't know if you ever will do business with them. So that's the one area where you cannot cross entity. I cannot create any account level or any contact level, contact level group that contains leads. Those are totally separate. There's this total brick wall between the two. That's why you have to convert a lead over into the account and contact side, because there is no connection on that side whatsoever. So that is something to remember, that you do have to create separate lookups. And you can do the same thing, though. I can create a lead lookup specific to what I want. I can also change how that lookup works for me. So if I want to change the order of the fields, so when I do my drop down, it's looking at the name, the account, city, state, work phone, email. I can change this order of just by changing my group. So if email is a more common one, I can actually go in and edit the layout of the group and then click on the layout tab itself, and you'll notice these fields are, let's say mobile is a more common one. I can actually move that left. I can click email and I can move that left. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting my column, and down here at the bottom, I'm telling it to move left or right. And then what I've done when I complete that is I am actually managing that lookup. So when I do my lookup, I do my drop down, now it's name, mobile, email, then account. So I can control the common one. So the first column is always going to be your default. So that's on every level, you can adjust that. So some of the more other ways that I really don't see a lot of people utilizing is the multi-layered lookup that you can do. So I have my advanced group here, and I'm going to do a lookup where the account contains test and where the opportunity description contains test. So what this is going to give me is any account and opportunity with test in its name. So here I've got the account level, and if I scroll right, I have all my opportunities. So you'll notice both of those fields have test in it. I can do, different naming. So if I want to do a lookup where the account contains able, I don't know if I spelled that right, and the opportunity description contains test. So I can mix and match, and I can add multiples. You can layer, okay, what was it then? AABEL. Oh, spelled that wrong. AABEL. And opportunity discount or description equals test or contains test. Now I'm going to do a search. Now I'm going to get just those for able and the test and the opportunity. So I don't see a lot of people doing those multi-layered, but when you add this advanced lookup feature to the standard lookups, you're then able to really dig into using that multi-layered lookup. So that is some of the new changes I wanted to go over. At this point, if anybody has any questions on anything, I don't see anything in the chat yet, so I haven't confounded you too badly. But some of the other ways I like to utilize this, so if I want to go in and create a default lookup on the opportunity level, say I really want to dig down into the quotes, so certain things on quotes I really want to look at. So I'm going to create a new group, and this is going to be my default lookup. You can name it whatever you want to, it doesn't matter. And conditions you always leave plain. All you're really worried about is the layout itself. So we want to look at the fields we want to actually do a search for. So I'm going to get rid of those that I know we're not going to need to search on. And then if I want to add more, so quotes is important to opportunities. So I'm going to click on my quote table, have my quote fields show up on the left. Now the quote generally is these prefix and suffix numbers. So that's that number that shows up at the top of the quote. The prefix usually stays the same, but the suffix is the one that changes per quote. So if I add this one to my quote over here, or for my quote, I'm going to do that edit because, again, I want to make sure that I put what the field is. So this is quote number, and you can even put prefix on here. and I'm going to link it. Remember, I always want to link it so that I can navigate to that record once I found it. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm actually going to move that left. If there's any other field on that quote that you maybe want to look for. So under the quote, we have, there's some quantity discount. Oh, we don't want that one. What is it? We want document total. Document, so just so everybody knows, if it has document in the front of it, that is a calculated numeric. So if you have, let's say, multi-currency turned on and you're using the document wording fields, that will be based on the currency code that's associated with it. So if you have a quote with euros, it's actually going to be the euro number and not the USD number. If you look for the field names, like grand total, that will be USD. So it stores, if you have multi-currency turned on, it stores both the USD, which is your base currency, or whatever your base currency happens to be, and then it stores the alternate currency in that document field. So you always have those both of those currency values stored on each of these records, and that includes sales order, quote, opportunity. So if I can add grand total in here, just in case I wanted to do a lookup on it, I can actually do that. So you can add more than just the standard fields onto those lookups, just if it helps you find something easier. Don't be afraid to try it and use it. So I'm just going to hit OK, and I'm going to show now this opportunity group. Now I've created the new group, right, and it's got my quote number on it, right? Here I can see my quote number. But now when I do a lookup, that quote number is still not there because I have to tell the system, look for this group when I'm doing my lookups. So I'm going to go up to Tools, I'm going to go to Options, I'm going to go to that Group tab, and then I'm going to change that main view up here at the top to Opportunity because I'm changing my Opportunity lookup. And I can type an O and it'll pull up Opportunity here. So there's Opportunity. Right now it's looking at all opportunities. I'm telling it I want to look at the default lookup, make my change, go up to the top right, save my change. Now if I do that lookup on my opportunity, now you're going to see there's description, account, quote prefix. Okay? So that's how you can make those changes. All right, so I'm going to change gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about speed search. Now, speed search is one way that you can cross boundaries between the leads and the purchasing side of the software. So where speed search comes in handy is that if you're looking for either, a customer or potential lead that you may not have done a lot of business with, but you want to add a new record to the system, but you don't know if they're in the system on either side yet. Speed search does cross that boundary. So speed search, if you don't know, is all the way up here in the top right hand of the black bar. This is your speed search lookup. So if I do a speed search lookup on my contact's name, my company name, company phone number, email address, it's going to do a search across the entire database, and I'm going to show you where that's all pulling from so you'll know how you can kind of edit those speed search lookups. So I'm going to click my lookup button. So I just did a search on test. Just pretty generic word. It's going to find a lot of hits. And you can control several things on speed search. So one thing you're going to notice as it's looking down through here on this source column, it's going to be telling you where it's getting the information that it found that word test. So this one's a contact, this one's a contact, down below that's history. If I keep scrolling, you're going to see here's an opportunity, another history. Now I can control what it's looking for. And you'll also notice I have multiple pages here. I was hoping to find a lead, but there may not be a lead in here with test. But you'll look through here and it's going to be finding anything with test in anywhere in the system. So speech search searches in the body of an email on a history record. Within a PDF that's an attachment on an account. A quote, it might be looking for a certain product name that you may have put on a quote which was saved as a PDF. It looks at all these different levels. You'll notice over here on the right-hand side an advanced link. If I click that advanced, you're going to see some additional information on your search. So you'll notice down here at the bottom left, it tells me, it only gave me the top 25. Now this is by design. You can change this, but just a word of caution, because this does look at a very deep dive into the system, you can bog down your browser if you try to pull too much back for too generic a search. So it sticks with the top 25 because it's finding the most common and giving you the most common. So you can adjust that. Just be aware it could bog down the entire system. If it's something like the word email and you're doing a search for all, that's going to have a ton of hits. That's going to have so many hits it'll probably lock up the SQL Server, because email word is in everything. So just be aware. Here in the center area, you're going to see this look in. So you'll notice that I've got check marks beside these kind of common items, right? So I've got accounts, activities, attachments, bill to, ship to, contracts, defects. So I can actually select the items that I want it to do a search in, and I can deselect those items that I don't use, and it does remember what you've selected here. So if I don't use bill to, ship to, if I'm not integrated with ION, or if I don't use contracts or defects, I'm going to take those off because that's just going to speed my searching up. So if you deselect those and only add the items in that you actually will use, that's going to make your search a lot quicker, and it's only going to be giving you results for those areas that you need to see. So you'll notice I do have quite a few of them deselected for just a standard CRM only implementation. And then if I do a select search here, it's going to update based on any changes I may have made. To the right, you're going to see a filter by. Now you can adjust this. You'll notice it's just text fields. So I can tell it I only want to look in where account is like test. So I'm telling it to limit its search. So right now I have 21 or 25 results. So if I hit a search now, I'm limiting this search. Now you're going to see I have a smaller subset of information, and it's only giving it to me where the account information has test in it. So you can adjust these as needed. So I can make, you'll notice this list here is quite extensive. Oops. It is quite a long list here where you can do. So one of the other ways I like to potentially use this information is down in the, there's some date fields. Here we go. Whoops. You'll see a date created. So this is within. So if I only want to look at new accounts or when it was last updated, just a more recent account, I can do that. And this within means within so many days. So I want to look at an account created within, I don't know, 60 days. It's going to limit its search within those accounts created in the last 60 days. So it's like doing a filtered sub-search. But you can actually do a lot of searching within this speed search. I actually want to find something here so I can show you how it searches. Okay, so I'll do a general. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to put the word general because I see there's a general company here. Because I want to cross lines. I want to show that it looks up leads and accounts and contacts. So I put general in here. And as I scroll down through it, I should find lead. There it is. So there it is. So it found that general kinetic. So this is the only search in the system that will actually allow you to cross that separation line between leads and accounts and contacts. So that's where it does become more useful if you do a lot of work in leads and you don't want to duplicate your efforts. So if the lead's already there, it's better to take that lead and convert it into account and contact than just create a brand new account and contact, because then you have duplicates in your system and you'll never be reconciled. So, most generally then at some point, what you're going to do is you're going to do a cleanup on your leads, and that initial lead you may have put in the system 6 months before you actually created an account. You're going to lose the fact that that lead sat there for 6 months and nobody touched it until finally they called back in and say, hey, nobody's ever called me back from my web inquiry. And then that person says, oh, well, here, let me put you in the system and we'll work with you. And at that point, they start being worked with and become an account. But that lead had to actually come in and say, nobody's ever contacted me and I want to be contacted. I put a form in on your website, nobody's ever called me back. That's bad business. So by making sure that you go through the lead side and checking to see if that lead is in there before you actually create the account, now you're going to find out the lead was created, in June, and we worked with them and we converted them, and now we know that from lead to purchase, we know that time frame. We know how long it takes to get a person to start purchasing new from our company. So that's where you get that full, it's almost like a marketing feature where you're finding out what's your strength for landing new business, and that's important to make sure you maintain. And this will allow you to do that search for that. So at this point, I'm a little early, but if anybody has any questions, I actually don't have everybody muted. So if anybody has any questions or wants me to go over some real-life scenarios and show you how to create these lookups or any specific questions, just let me know and we can review. Okay. While everybody's thinking about it, this one here? Yeah. Jessica's going to go over our upcoming events, and if anybody thinks of anything between here and the end of the meeting, just speak up and we'll go over something in the system as needed.
So yeah, I just want everyone to kind of review this slide. As discussed before, we'll be hosting these web events once a month with different topics, and then once a quarter, we'll be doing our Heartland Users Group. So our next web event is March, as you can see there. It's going to be a live demo of the mobile CRM. And then in April is our on-site event. We are awaiting a final confirmation on Infor being here, but that is the senior product manager from Infor, as well as some other featured Infor speakers. So that's going to be a really good event to attend here in Springboro near our office. So if you want to mark that on your calendar, more details will be coming out soon for that. And then you can see in May, we have an Inbox Guru demo with a representative from Inbox Guru, and we're doing the Configure Product Quote tool in June. And just as a save the date, July 21st will be our Q3 users group, if you want to put that as kind of a just save the date for that. And all the registrations will be live on our website, and I'll send that out in the follow-up email with today's recording and everything for everyone. Does anyone else have any questions, or do you have any ideas for upcoming webinar topics you'd like us to cover? Feel free to chime in. Otherwise, we can go ahead and wrap up early. All right, well, it doesn't look like anyone has any questions, so we're going to go ahead and let you have 15 minutes back, well, almost 20 minutes back of your day, and we'll see you on the next webinar then.
All right, everybody have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.